Hi. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Inventor Smart Community podcast of our podcast Spotlight series, episode 17. I'm here with Turner, who is also a serial inventor. I'm starting to discover in our little pre-conversation that we've had here. We just want to welcome everyone again. We do this podcast where we interview inventors for our Inventor Smart community and, of course, the National Inventor Club. If you're new here and you're not familiar with our community, we're just a collection of inventors at all different stages of development. It's a community. You can download the app, Inventor Smart Community app, at all the places that you can download, Google Play, your Android or Apple Store. And of course, this podcast is streaming on every platform that you can discover for your streaming devices. Welcome, Mr. Turner. How are you? Where are you dialing in from?
So I'm in Burlington, Vermont, or actually just outside Burlington, a little town called Colchester on Lake Champlain, which is quite frozen.
You were mentioning earlier that the lake was frozen, and I was commenting on that beautiful fireplace in the background. Although I'm in Missouri, so we're kind of just dancing into spring. So I have a fireplace behind me as well, but haven't had it on for a few weeks now. So kind of wanting to move on from the fireplace, if you know what I mean. But I am enjoying seeing yours. All right, Mr. Olson, so you're a member of our Inventor Smart community, and you are a serial inventor. And you've already shown a couple of things earlier when we were off camera. And I'm already stoked and excited because I believe in the power of helping our kids adjust and focus. And I think you may have tapped into something that is really unique. So tell us all about it.
Well, so my first career was as a trauma surgeon. I spent years operating on people and teaching surgery to surgery residents here at the University of Vermont. And then I started doing epidemiology, and one thing led to another, and I got interested in just how bad it is for people to sit still all day. And the epidemiology is really compelling. It takes probably 2 years off the average person's life because the average American sits for 8 or 10 hours a day, something that we are manifestly not designed for. So we worked to try and design some kind of chair that would keep people moving while they were sitting. And because we have and I had no business doing any of this designing or inventing stuff because my career was as an academic surgeon, but there's a very robust inventor community here in Vermont, and especially in Burlington, with maker spaces and startup spaces and things, and lots of welcoming people with real design skills. So within a year, we had a chair that would keep adults, moving while they were sitting, and we started selling these things over the web, and now we've sold about 16,000 of them. So that's going all right. But it was very hard to get people to buy into the idea of a chair that would move while they sat. And because, that's not what the ergonomic community has been pitching for the last 100 years. So taking a page from the Apple people, if you want to change the way people interact with the product, you have to go after the kids, so they'll think it's normal, and when they start owning businesses and companies, they'll understand. So we thought, and kids are trapped in school sitting all day long as well, so maybe we could come up with some kind of chair that would keep kids moving while they sat. And there are tippy stools available for kids. You can find them on Amazon, but they're typically quite expensive, like $100 or more. So we had the idea that we would make a tippy chair for kids that would be really inexpensive, like free. So we put our heads together and designed a chair that you can just stamp out of plywood with a CNC router. The pieces fit together with a self-locking joint. You just beat on it with a rubber mallet, and it turns into a chair. The movement is provided by using an old tennis ball that's held in place with a piece of bungee cord. The rest of it is just 4 pieces of plywood that, as I say, lock together with self-locking joints. There's no screws or glues involved. We called it the button chair because it kind of looked like a button, but also we kind of love the butt on kind of sound, and so do the kids that we tried it out on.
I bet
So,
they did. Yeah.
so anyway, this has its own website. You can download the files to make one as a DIY thing in your basement. You can also download a CNC file to stamp out hundreds of them, like a cookie cutter. They're just made out of plywood, and they can fit any kid because it's plywood. You can cut it off to fit your kid. I did a TED talk about this idea, and it's had like 40,000 views. So we're kind of and this the file has been downloaded to make this thing over 5,000 times now all around the world. So we're kind of getting into the space of empowering schools to make their own tippy furniture. The idea was a high school would have a CNC router. They could make chairs for all the kids in the school, and they'd be independent of the larcenous school furniture industry. Kind of a power to the people 60s thing.
Can I jump in? I just want to ask a couple of questions. So in the discovery of this, is this more geared towards younger adolescents, toddlers? Yes.
Yeah, so we were kind of thinking anywhere from preschool to middle school was kind of the spot we were looking for. By the time kids get bigger, we have other ideas in mind for them. But the business of being able to make these things out of plywood independently, and inexpensively, because as I say, we give away the design. It was an idea that I really liked because it would get kids moving immediately and without any upfront investment by schools. So that's gone all right, but hasn't taken off in the viral way I had hoped. And meanwhile, you can't stop messing around with ideas, as I'm sure you have this same problem. So one day I was messing around with a tennis ball, and I thought, if you fold in the sides of a tennis ball, you get kind of an interesting shape. And as we were screwing around with that shape, we found this kind of biconcave disc, kind of like an erythrocyte, like a red blood cell. But the bottom of it could be hemispheric with a ring that keeps it from actually tipping over, and you could put a pad on top, and you would have a tippy platform that kids can sit on that doesn't roll away like a ball, doesn't fall over, and but requires constant postural readjustment in order to stay balanced. So we've measured this in the lab with rebreathing equipment to measure carbon dioxide production, O2 consumption. And something like, if you put a kid on something like this, their metabolic rate goes up by about 30%. For context, 50% is like walking. So by putting a kid on a tippy chair, you can kind of keep them metabolically engaged. Also turns out it's a big help for kids with ADHD and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
those were going to be my additional questions and comments. Kids that have ADHD, that have trouble kind of sitting still and focusing as it is. And this is amazing. And what a great presentation, sir. This is incredible. It's really innovative stuff here. And please continue. Thank you.
Yeah, well, so the thing that I most loved about this design is it'll be dirt cheap to make because you can blow mold it. I don't know if you know about blow molding and spin molding, but you can, if you have such a factory, you take a glob of recycled plastic and you just blow a big bubble like you would with bubble gum, and then you hit it from both sides with a mold that shapes it. So you can imagine this started out as a big bubble of recycled plastic, and then you just press it from both sides of the mold, let it cool and open it up, and now you have basically a chair that's ready to go. So we think we can probably make these things for under $10 a pop, and we hope put active chairs under every kid in every school. And as you probably know, almost nobody thinks of anything first. Thomas Edison, who was the archetypal inventor, readily admitted that he had never invented anything. He had just improved stuff. So I actually had this idea, encountered this idea, I would say, when I met a guy, Frode Strenstring, at the International Furniture Convention in Javits Center, New York City, a few years ago. And he had come from Norway and brought this beautiful piece of bent plywood. It's the kind of stuff that Norway just excels in. So they make these things, and they have them in schools for kids to sit on. And I was just swept away. It was just such a beautiful design, and it works so well. And I said, Fredo, these things are terrific. How much do you sell them for? And he said, $800. And I said, whoa, I I don't know if we're going to get schools in the United States to spring for $800 a kid. And he said, no, of course not. But I'm selling them in Norway, where we care about kids. In the
Oh,
United States, we can hardly get money for glitter for preschoolers' art projects.
yeah,
This had to be
yeah.
very inexpensive, and it captures 100% of the function of Fruita's beautiful $800 chair for about $10. So I love this idea, and I've been trying to find somebody in the school furniture space that
Mm.
manufactures school furniture, because I want to find somebody to make this design and get it out into the world. I don't have the bandwidth to do that right now, and I don't really have the connections to be selling furniture to schools. I have the connections to give away furniture to schools. That's easy, but selling furniture to schools will require a partner who has connections and expertise and understands how the buying process works for school districts and that sort of thing. So anyway, I love this design, and I'm hoping somebody somewhere will hear this. It's like a note in a bottle. I hope somebody picks up on this idea and runs with it, because I really want this design to get out in the world.
I think what I love the most about all of this too is that earlier you made the comments of, if we're going to start changing the world or changing people's minds about certain way to do things, like recognize that kids are sitting still way too long in school, is to start with the kids, right? Is to give them these tools early on to where, like you said, when they're adults and maybe they start their businesses, it's incorporated into their daily lives or their children's lives. And that's how we evoke change and the process of that. I love it. Thank you so much for being so brilliant and really thinking outside the box. I mean, this is true inventorship right here.
Well, I have to say, I'm just the tip of the spear. Where there's dozens of people in our community here in Burlington, Vermont, have contributed ideas. I've presented this in various forums, and people get enthusiastic and have great ideas and terrible ideas, and sometimes it takes a long time to tell which is which. But it's great to be in a room with people who are way smarter than I am and have way more ideas than I would. So it's been fun for me, because I get to hang out with young smart kids who have lots of ideas. We're right now engaged in a project at Champlain College with a group of kids that's working to get our button chair design through the communities here in Vermont. So it's a matter of finding partners to get these projects underway.
Of course.
And meanwhile, we're kind of funding it based on this business we have selling office alternatives to office chairs to adults. And as I mentioned, we've sold about 16,000 of them around the world, and that's going pretty well. And we have a variety of designs, but a chair is kind of expensive. And so we were thinking, is there a way to keep people moving that wouldn't involve like making them give up the chair that they have? And as we were kind of spitballing that, we thought, well, you can kind of tell I'm moving all over the place. And the reason is because I'm sitting on one of our chairs. It's this one we call the Tilt. It's it's got a steel base, and actually the seat is padded with buckwheat hulls, like a Zen meditation cushion. So it doesn't involve any plastic, and biodegradable. You could eat the stuff if you wanted to, but it's tippy because it sits on an industrial grade motor mount. So anyways, and so we keep trying to make a less expensive but fully functional chair that'll keep people moving while they're sitting. But you get to the lower limit of what you can do with a chair. So we thought, is there some other way to get people to move more while we're sitting? And we thought, well, you could make their ischial tuberosities, the sitting bones of their pelvis, unstable, and that'll guarantee that they keep rebalancing. But you could also make their feet unstable by putting something under their feet on the floor. And that would possibly be a less expensive, simpler thing to do. So after noodling around with that for a while, we came up with this idea, which we call the foot wave. It's a a bunch of cross members that are independently mounted on, I guess you can see their motor mounts, 3/4 inch natural rubber things that allow these pieces to move independently of one another, but also, can kind of move in a concerted way if you put your feet on it. It's kind of like playing scales on a piano, only with your feet. Kind of, and because it's got a hemispheric rocker on the bottom, the whole thing is kind of unstable. And so it really compels people to sit up with good posture and keeps their legs involved. And it's as I was researching all this, it turns out that the soleus muscle, which lies just deep to the gastrocnemius muscle in the calf of a person, it's the bulky muscle just above your heel and your lower leg. It's really crucial to human balance, and so it's basically always engaged, and it's richly endowed with mitochondria. So it really is very metabolically active, even in unconditioned adults. So it turns out that if you can keep people's feet moving, you can really crank up their metabolic rate without really making a big imposition on the rest of them. So it's and what that's as an epidemiologist and physician, what we're really interested in is getting people's good cholesterol up, their bad cholesterol down, their insulin down. We want to keep their glucose down. We want to arrange all of these parameters in your circulatory system that keep you healthy and make you live a long time. And you do this by keeping people active. And because people spend so much time sitting in front of their computer, we had to find a way to make sitting in front of your computer active. And it turns out if you just make the surface under the feet unstable, you can really get people to move a lot and crank up their metabolic rate. The thing that's really cool about it is people don't notice that you've been messing with their metabolic rate. They're getting exercise without knowing it. When we measure their expired carbon dioxide and inspired, we find that we're adding about 3,000 steps to an 8-hour workday just by swapping out the chair that's sitting underneath them or swapping out this, putting a tippy thing under their feet. So, my interest is kind of physiologic and medical, but we also kind of know that nobody's interested in that. It's got to seem like it's fun and healthful.
I think too, for me, somebody like me, I'm one of these. I'm a mover, so I feel like you're normalizing this condition that so many of us have, right?
No, and you are so lucky to be a natural fidgeter, because the epidemiology is very clear. Natural born fidgeters live about 2 years longer than the rest of people.
Woo!
No,
we'll take it, of course.
But you get it for free.
Yeah. But I like the message that it's kind of normalizing, because, I've had friends over the years, they'll sit, they'll rock, they'll sway, they have to constantly. And I did notice that you were kind of moving. And it's funny, when I do these types of interviews, I'm trying my best to stay still. And I've got like a little move envy over here. I'm like, this guy's all this.
I'll send you one of our chairs, and then when you move, you can blame your goddamn chair. Say it's my fault.
Every time I do an interview, I could say why I'm doing this, and we'll get the word out double fast, if you will. So listen, man, you and your team and your community, this is brilliant. This is groundbreaking, brilliant. The normalizing of this type of energy that so many of us possess. Not
just adults, but kids who've been ostracized for ADHD.
Yes.
Now it can be normalized.
Yes. Yeah. I'm almost Andy will laugh. I could be in tears, because I have a best friend, and he's 25 now, but her son, when he was little, he got in so much trouble at school all the time. And he was coming home with the little blue paper clip, card, whatever. And it was almost every day he was handing it to his mom. And I was getting so upset. I go, this is breaking his confidence, his self-esteem. He's almost expecting it. The next year in school, he asked the teacher what color the cards were, for that type of discipline, sit still, don't move kind of thing. So this, and I'm sure you hear this all the time as you've developed and talked to hundreds of people, but that's real life stuff too. I remember feeling so bad for Louis, like he can't help it. He's moving around,
and in previous iterations of human culture, when we were hunter-gatherers, Louis would have been a star, because he would have found
Yes.
more rabbits over the hill because he couldn't sit still. Whereas the kids who sat still would have been eaten by wolves. So, the business of ostracizing people who are active, it's a terrible mistake because such people get a lot done.
That's right. That's right. It goes back to, you need something done, ask a busy person. We got it. We can fit it in somehow. It was such a pleasure speaking with you this afternoon. I really enjoyed your presentation. I just think it's spot on. It's revolutionary. And anything to do with kids and their development is always a sparkle for me. I run a nonprofit where we give musical instruments to underfunded music programs throughout our communities, and I watch them just thrive and thrive and thrive. And a lot of kids have some behavioral stuff or some ADHD, they're fidgety. Music is also an amazing outlet for those students as well. So anything to do with the kids is just, it's the future. Really, it is.
Yeah, you're doing the right thing when you're doing something for a kid.
I think so too. I really do. It was an absolute pleasure having you on episode 17 of our Inventor Spotlight. I think you're brilliant, and I can't wait to get to know you more in our community and invite your friends to join us. And we'd love to know more about your development and where this is going. And we'll do our best on our end to support you. Brian and I and Sean, and I'm not sure if Andy's coming with us. We're going to be in Chicago this weekend for the Inspired Home Show. So you never know what conversations will come up, people that we meet, things that we see. And I'll keep my eye out for any type of furniture developers, and I'll just collect information from you for you. I won't speak for you, but if I could grab a card or something that sparks me, I'm on it. I love what you're doing. I think it's amazing. Thank you for being a part of the show today.
Thanks for having me on. It was fun.
Good. Thank you. All right,
Bye-bye.
everyone. You can check us out at Inventor Smart Community. You can download the app. You can go to nationalinventorclub.com. If you're unsure, if you're an inventor, you're just kind of dabbling with it and you just want some information, just to subscribe to the newsletter to start and just kind of grab some resources and get a feel of this community. We would love to have you. We're all inventors at all different stages of development, and you are welcome to join us in this community. Until then, Mr. Turner, I hope to see you at some of our other meetings, and of course, any activity in the app that you provide with us. All right, everyone. Thank you. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.